Should we talk about sex today and do some exercises sexually?
It's just
You guys know the difference between, let's say, therapy, yoga, and spiritual practice? Can you make that discrimination? Because it's important when we enter something like sexuality, because sexual therapy, sexual yoga, and sexual spiritual practice have nothing to do with each other. And that goes for everything, not just sex. Therapy, yoga, and spiritual practice are independent. And if we have time or we get into it, I'll relate it all to Ken's model, which I love. But I don't want to spend the time doing the theory today. I mostly want to work with you one-on-one and doing practices if we could get to them. So I'll talk about sex in those terms and then see how far we get. But you could apply it to meditation and anything else. Therapy cures, heals dysfunction into function. So these are, again, my opinion. After the 3 hours are up, you could say, fuck that. But let's go for the ride. So anytime you're trying to fix yourself, that's therapy. Anytime you're trying to improve your function, that's therapy. In my words, and the way I'm going to use the words. Anytime you're trying to make your sex better, that's therapy. Anytime you're trying to get beyond your sexual inhibitions, that's therapy. Anytime you're trying to learn how to give your love, even though you're terrified because of an abuse issue, that's therapy. So all of that's very important to learn to love and to grow sexually. Boundary conditions of good therapy is safety, support, gentleness, understanding, respect, honesty. And that's all very important in the therapeutic modality. So if we're doing something and you're with a partner or you notice somebody freezing up, let's say I say, okay, come on up here, would you come on up here, take off your clothes and have sex with Eli before we begin? And you go, then I'm like, I'll say, would you prefer Moloch? Oh no, she's like, where's Eli? Before I could say that, she was like, okay, well, let's move on. So much for therapy, let's move right on to yoga. If I suggested something like that, and in your case you obviously don't need therapy, but if you had a reaction of like, I've never been able to trust men before, that kind of thing, then what we would do is create a situation of safety, no pressure, find out how you're feeling, address that directly, give you time and space to unfold at your own healing leisure, create the right context, be gentle, all of that. And that's how we help you. There's specific techniques, of course, but that's the circumstance, the environment of therapy. It's very important to understand that because I personally believe that Eastern culture, meditative culture, is what a lot of you seem to be doing in ITP, was transplanted from the East to the West and was absorbed into a therapeutic philosophical context. I don't think that's where it came from. I think that's a big mistake, but here we are. So, in other words, yoga and spiritual practice is not therapy. Yoga and spiritual practice has nothing to do with therapy. Yoga and spiritual practice require a totally different environment and context than therapy. Will therapeutic issues come up while you're practicing yoga and spiritual practice? Of course. Should you deal with them? Absolutely. Full spectrum dealing, You need a moment of therapy? Apply your skillful means of therapy. But those are totally different contexts than what, again, these are all my mind forms, than what I would call yoga or spiritual practice. So to make it clear, spiritual practice, yoga, and therapy are approaches to life in the moment. And therapy takes dysfunction, moves it into function. Yoga increases the flow. So you get function from therapy, you get flow from yoga, and you get glow from spiritual practice.